So it's been almost 24 hours since we had our initial reveal of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League with its gameplay, the release date, and all of the reactions and hot takes online, mine included there. And while I was looking around fairly disappointed at what we're getting from Rocksteady and kind of the direction they've taken this game in, I did want to reflect a bit about it and really go over kind of how they got to this point and why it sort of shows exactly what we've been discussing for a little while now when it comes to the development cycle, how long it takes to make a game, and how fluid just the overall gaming industry is. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the Spawn Wave Plus channel if you're new. So first of all, the reactions to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League have not been great online. I think the gameplay trailer and video that they showcase is getting downvote bombed like crazy on places like YouTube. Obviously, they're getting a lot of replies on Twitter around certain things, and one in particular was a screenshot that was taken. It's been shared around all over the place. It's in the trailer, and I saw like Jeff Grubb even kind of make fun of it a bit, and that has to do with like the gear score and all these different things they're doing with the loadouts. And so this is for Captain Boomerang, who you'd expect to be using boomerangs, but here he is with a sniper rifle, holding it up, all excited. And obviously this thing is very, very gamified, right, is what you would call it, where there's all kinds of things with stats, numbers that go up all over the place. You even have skins, it looks like, that's painted on the sniper rifle. Yeah, it's not the most exciting thing necessarily to, I feel like, a majority of gamers, but who knows? Things have really shifted quite a bit when it comes to live service, games as a service, etc. Although Rocksteady has been doubling down on the idea of this not being a games as a service, but it has every single trope of it being a games as a service. So who knows? But the thing that gets me is all the numbers: damage per hit, critical hit, capacity, rate of, like, and then you have all these other things below it with ammo reserve capacity. You got percentages everywhere. It feels like you're back in statistics all over again. But you have your gear score that didn't go over well, and this is a menu that I think everyone actually was concerned about seeing after the battle pass got revealed. You also have up here, there's like the talent tree, which, I mean, you'd expect that now because we're getting a lot of RPG elements being baked into basically every action game. It helps with progression and feeling like you're accomplishing and growing in a game. So that, I have no problem with like talent trees or any of that. But you know, the battle pass, the store, and look, the game might be these live service titles, games service that require online connection, which this does. They tend to be broken a lot of times on release, right? Where the connection isn't working right, or matchmaking's off, or just these different things. That store works 100% every time, doesn't it? So this is unfortunate for me specifically, because I feel like I am getting kind of fatigued around these titles in particular, but also because it's Rocksteady and there is that pedestal that they're held up on after what they accomplished with Arkham Asylum, City, and then Night. I mean, back then, Rocksteady, like, they weren't on the map like they are now, but they showed up with Arkham Asylum and really changed the game completely, the combat in particular, but also making this really good Batman game that turned into an eventual series that they had, and then they topped it with City. And I know Night isn't viewed as good as something like City, but we still look back on it and go, wow, visually that was really, really impressive. We compare it to Gotham Knights with side-by-sides, and Arkham Knight from 2015 holding its own. But that's the biggest thing to look back on, is how long Rocksteady would have been developing this title. And I think that sort of reveals why they went in this direction. If you really think about it, let's just say this game took 6, maybe 7 years to make, and it sounds crazy, but game cycles development in particular is taking longer and longer, to where it feels like a big quote-unquote AAA game is an entire console generation. And that's why you'd have multiple teams working at studios to get smaller projects out there, whether it's remasters, remakes, or just like AA level games. But in that case, if you are chasing a trend, there is a possibility that by the time your game is done, the gaming industry would have shifted or changed or altered in some way as we've seen player feedback over time. So, this game would have gone in development, we'll say maybe a year after Arkham Knight, because there was still a lot of cleanup that had to be done with Arkham Knight, patches, especially with the PC side of thing, all these different parts to that. We'll just say conservatively, okay, it went into development, even 2017. Well, we could even give them benefit out. Okay, it's been a 6-year dev cycle on this. Well, in 2017, Destiny 2 came out, and I mean, Destiny 1 was already kind of working to build up Bungie, and then Destiny 2 comes out, and once again, games as a service, live service, isn't always the smoothest launch, but Destiny 2 has continued to evolve throughout this game's development for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And while there are other instances, things like Fortnite, and really that work to build on top of the Battle Pass structure, it's pretty clear that WB looked around and said, well, we want a Fortnite or a Destiny. And I mean, to be fair, Square and Marvel did the same thing with the Avengers, and that didn't work out too well, but here we are now with WB showing up their own version of the game. But it just, everything about this feels old and generic, and that's kind of the best way I can look at it and describe it now, with kind of the loadouts. They've shown the gameplay that doesn't feel like Suicide Squad. Like, the characters in Suicide Squad are supposed to be very unique from one another. However, the gameplay that they showed looked very much the same, almost across the board. There were little differences here and there, right? I guess weight of the character, some of their different moves outside of just shooting guns, but it feels like your typical game with a third-person shooter that's really, really fast, action-packed, but it's something we've seen multiple times. Now, I also want to give them the benefit of the doubt in saying, you know, we saw one part of this game, a 10-minute battle or something. There is a chance that the combat changes and evolves throughout the game. Maybe the boss battles are really, really interesting. There's twists and turns throughout the story, and it keeps you engaged. But from what they've shown, and it's very odd to show up with a bad-looking portion of the game, or one that doesn't really convey the game itself well. I'm kind of concerned that this is legitimately it. This is what they've spent this entire time making, which is kind of their take on a Destiny Light version of Suicide Squad. And after seeing what happened with Marvel's Avengers, if this doesn't necessarily take off out of the gate and continue to build momentum, maybe over the first year or two, so potentially it doesn't last very long. And if that is the case, it being an always online game, or a game that requires an internet connection, yeah, it'll just kind of be lost to time, and that'll feel like a serious waste of Rocksteady's time then for the development, and probably the money that went into this game. So for WB and Rocksteady's sake, I hope this game does well, but it's, from what we've seen with games as a service and live service titles, it's very difficult, especially with the market becoming more and more saturated with these games. Ubisoft not having a great go of it right now overall, and we've heard more and more from Square Enix as they've had to just shut down games like Babylon's Fall in less than a year. And I don't know if the Suicide Squad intellectual property is even strong enough to hold this up, considering Marvel's The Avengers wasn't strong enough, and that's The Avengers, so we'll see. At the very least, I will give it a try. I will. It's Rocksteady. Suicide Squad, yeah, okay, we'll see how that goes, but I will at least go in with an open mind, try it out, and I'm sure give my opinion then on the game and the situation. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below. Do you believe development cycles are getting too long to really trend chase, and is it something that they should consider as, okay, if we're going to take 6 years to make a game, maybe we should work to steer the conversation ourselves rather than attempt to follow it? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.